No matter where you come from, no matter where you're going, here's a place where you can take comfort in the knowing that whether if you've come to stay a while or just passing through, this door is open to you. Come and let's be silent. Come and share a hug. Come, let's pray together. Come, love and be loved. From the blissed out to the turned out, from the pampered to the abused, this door is open to you. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. The God in us recognizes the God in you. The God in you. Whether you're black or white, gay or straight, Christian, Buddhist or Jew, this door is open to you. If there's some kind of trouble.
And this door is open for you. We want to welcome each and every one of you here this beautiful morning. And those of you that are in the building, if you would take an opportunity to turn and wave at our cameras. First of all, we'll wave at Tia and Donna and say hello. Thank you for being here. But then we wave to all of our virtual individuals that are joining and watching whenever and from wherever you are watching. My name is Darlene Strickland, and I'm the minister here, and we always like to begin our time together in prayer. So I invite you to take this opportunity to turn your awareness within. We give thanks. We enter into and greet this day with a gratitude of heart, of mind, of spirit. We give thanks for the capacity to recognize the gift of life. We give thanks for the capacity to not only recognize, but to experience and express the one presence, this life that flows through all creation. Today we open to explore what is it to be present to that which we call God. And so we open in a way that will bless us and that will enable us to be a blessing. And in the name and the nature of all that is holy, thank you, God. And so it is. Amen. We want to welcome you and thank you for being here this morning. If you would be so kind to locate your cell phone and send that into the silence. If you turn it off or put it on airplane mode, it really helps keep the airwaves clear, and we greatly appreciate that. We want to begin with a song this morning many of you are going to recognize, and our very own Cat Williams is with us somewhere in the house. It's like, where's Waldo? Where's Cat Williams? We may just have to sing her up here because this is like a congregational saying, come on, Cat Williams. While she's coming up, we're so blessed. Richard Schulman is still in New York, but we are so blessed to have David Washington, who's really becoming a part of our music team. And with Dave, Joel, Joey, and Pete, with our band, and with Cat Williams, they're going to invite you this morning to recognize Spirit is in this place with a beautiful song by Denise Rozier. If you know it, sing along.
Have come together as family. We have come here as we are, and we have come with arms wide open. We have gathered here in love. Spirit is in this place. Spirit is in this, Spirit affirm all life as sacred, and we declare that peace is here. Come on, sing it with me. Spirit is in this, Spirit is in this place. Spirit is in this, Spirit is in this place. We sing, Spirit is in this, Spirit is in this place. Raise the roof with shouts of praise. Spirit's in this place. Dave Della Rosa. We sing in celebration. We sing with words of prayer.
We affirm that all life is sacred.
We affirm all life as sacred.
And we declare
That peace is here.
Spirit is in this place.
Spirit is in this, Spirit is in this place. Spirit is in this, Spirit is in this place. Spirit is in this, Spirit is in this place. Raise the roof with shouts of praise. Spirit's in this place.
Yeah. Spirit is in this place, and you are in this place. His Spirit is in you who are in this place. So it's everywhere. We want to welcome each and every one of you this beautiful morning. We also want to take a moment to acknowledge our young people. Reverend Gabby and Reverend Barbara Ann create a beautiful space for our young people to explore and experience their true nature, to really engage it in an experiential way. If you'd like to join them and others in the back to be a part of that, you can head on over. And we like to send them off with an affirmation that says, we love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the divinity in you. Would you send that blessing to our children? We love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the divinity in you. Have a wonderful Sunday school experience this morning. We'd also like to extend a welcome to any of you that may be here for the first time. If this is your first time, if you raise your hand, we have a connections card. Wonderful welcome this morning. We have a connections card, and it has a heart. If you attach that heart, it will allow us to acknowledge you as someone that's here for the first time. Jennifer, when you get back, there's others on the back row. And then, Jennifer, just so to see how fast you can run, there's some in that way. If you would like a little aerobic exercise on Sunday morning, there's some more right back here. And checking how sharp is your vision. There's also some more back here, Jennifer. Go, Jennifer, go. If for some reason, if we didn't see your hand or you didn't want to raise your hand, good job, Jennifer. We welcome those of you that are here today for the first time. We also welcome those of you that are live streaming that are joining us for the first time. And we welcome each and every one of you that consider this part of your spiritual home. And so let's affirm that blessing to all of us and to each one that is joining today. We love you. We bless you. We appreciate you. And we behold the divinity in you. Today is an exciting day for many different reasons. After our Sunday service, we're going to take a quick 15-minute, what I call restore your comfort break. We do have a little fruit and some breakfast bars out in the lobby because we thought, to ask people to stay an extra hour when time changed, tummies may be growling. And so we'll take a quick 15-minute little restore your comfort break and then come back in here for an hour meeting. We have a representative with us, and I believe she is in the back. Is that you, our solar representative? Are you here? Oh, there you are. You'll be meeting her a little bit later, but we're going to be talking about some exciting stuff. It'll last about an hour, and it begins 15 minutes after the service ends. For our live streamers, you'll be receiving a YouTube link. You can tune in as well to this meeting. We value your presence and your feedback as well. You saw the announcements that were coming up as we open, but there's two things I want to highlight. One is Adopt a Highway. Pamela and Charlie Rogers, would you please stand? Some of you may not know this, but this beautiful couple, they spearhead this, but we have a stretch of land, a highway between here, sort of in Sierra Nevada, close to us, that we pick up trash. When I say we, I mean they pick up trash. The team picks up trash. I've not yet been able to join them, but they have a wonderful time, a group that go out together, socialize, pick up trash, do something practical, and then sometimes they'll go and have lunch or something together. If you have an interest in that, you can see them after the service, or you can always see, where is Linda Jones? Linda Jones, would you please stand? Linda Jones is our volunteer program coordinator, and if you have any interest, you can see her, or she can also help you find out, hey, where can I plug in? And then another thing I want to highlight is a program that we do called Feed the Kids. Jerry Conley, would you please stand? On 11/11, November the 11th, we'll be feeding about 150 children, which is something we do. We partner in the community. Yeah. And it really does take a village to buy the stuff, to cook it, and to serve it. And Jerry has been running this for years like a well-oiled machine. So you could see her. There's some sign-up sheets in that the little welcome center as you come in. So if you're available and would like to be a part of that, those are two things that are coming up. I want to extend a special welcome to you for that. The other thing that's really exciting to me about today is we have the opportunity to receive 5 individuals into membership. We typically do this, I know that's exciting, we typically do this once a quarter. But what happened after the homecoming retreat is some folks said, I just want to go ahead and join, can I do it now? And so we created a special opportunity for this, and there are 5 individuals that we have the opportunity to welcome today. So I'd like to invite up Christy Corna, our associate minister, and Sharon Oxendine, the vice president of our board, to come up. We'll actually all come down here. And we have a slide with these names. So I'm going to invite your name to come on up if you're here. Now, Deborah Reinhardt, Deborah contacted us and said she's at the vet's office with her cat right now. She's afraid her cat may have damaged a paw, and so she said for us to please hold her cat. Her cat's name is Bingle, in prayer. But you'll get to meet her. Deborah Reinhardt found Unity at Unity of Renaissance in Michigan before Marianne Williamson. That's where Marianne Williamson actually served as a minister there. She started coming here in 2008, and she's just been attending classes and gotten more involved, and she's one of those that recently said, I want to become a member. So Deborah Reinhardt will be becoming a member. Nancy Williams, if you'd like to come up front, Nancy's going to be joining in membership today. Nancy discovered Unity in Raleigh, North Carolina. There's 2 churches, Unity of the Triangle and Unity of Raleigh. I used to go to both, one at 9 and one at 11, because I couldn't believe such a church existed. She discovered Unity at Unity of Raleigh 25 years ago. Her first visit here was last November. And she said, I feel like I found my tribe at Unity. Everyone I've met is so nice and friendly. I just want to be part of your community, and I want to be the best person I can be. I'm also an ordained minister, and I've never done anything with that. Have no fear. We'll work on that. I've never wanted to join a church before attending Unity of the Blue Ridge. I feel so much love and joy when I'm there, and I just want to be part of that and support Unity. Next, we'd like to acknowledge Nancy and John Thompson. John was not able to be here today, but Nancy is here. Nancy and John first discovered Unity when Reverend Chad O'Shea was the pastor, But they moved to Mills River in 2020. It was during COVID, and so they actually began to join us online. They started taking classes and engaging in activities and said, we just want to join this place. In a nutshell, we love everything about this church. And Nancy and John have jumped in with their consciousness, with their support, and continue to be a true blessing. The fifth member today is a virtual member, Vicki Pruitt. Vicki discovered unity when she was in Houston. Back in 2008, she said, I'll never forget a moment standing in a sanctuary during a Sunday service and realizing I'd finally found a spiritual home. I found a church that taught what I felt in my heart to be true. And then also in 2020, she had moved to Tennessee. Didn't have a church in Tennessee. And in 2020, she discovered us online and started watching and became involved. Many of you may recognize her because she was just here. She made the trip to come here when we had our homecoming retreat. I'm actually going to tell a little story about her in my talk today. I said, is there anything you want to share? And she said, I'm placing membership because I feel so deeply spiritually fed at Unity of the Blue Ridge. I'm also exploring the possibility of moving to the area. Yeah. And I'm loving imagining being there in person and helping out with the labyrinth and the grounds and the church office. Thank you all for being the beautiful center of love and wisdom for the world. I just want to reflect back to you what you create together. Now, there's some beautiful things to me about Unity is that you don't have to be a member of Unity to belong and to have a sense of belonging and a sense of involvement. Membership does matter when it comes to us being an incorporation. It matters when we elect our board members. But the reason that membership matters most is because it matters to the individual on their spiritual path. There's something when an individual says, I am guided and called to join with. And so the first thing that we want to hand to each of you today, or have you select one, I'll show the congregation. Each of them are selecting a different beautiful piece of stained glass where the edges have been smoothed out. And I want this, here's one for John. I want that to represent and to remind you that you are part of the mosaic of community and the mosaic of consciousness that we create together, that all of us are creating that together. You've also been given a rose. In the Christian tradition, a rose is very representative as a lotus would be in the Buddhist tradition. It represents awakening. And you never really look at a rose and say, well, when is it okay? When is it perfect? Because a rose can express its perfection at every stage of its being, at every stage of its becoming. When we look around, when we look at our new members, we know that each and every one are in a unique stage of expressing their perfection. And so we give each other the wiggle room for you to be there and her to be here and him to be there, in a space that creates a reverence and an awe and a desire to truly live our light. There's something very powerful about that. And so each of you are making this commitment today, and you're saying that I understand and support the mission and vision of Unity of the Blue Ridge. I choose to demonstrate my support to Unity through prayer, personal involvement, and personal support. I seek to live my highest truth, and I honor and support others as they live their highest truth. I open myself to receive the abundant blessings that are available when I intentionally live my highest truth. And so is it your intention to declare your membership into Unity of the Blue Ridge? All right. Would you rub your hands together and join me as let's give them a hand first. Just stay right there. We like to sing this song by Karen Drucker that says, you are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of love. You are the face of love. I hold you in my heart. I hold you in my heart. We are one family. We are one family. are the face of love. To Nancy and John and Deborah and Vicky, we love you. We bless you. We appreciate you. And we behold the divinity in you. Welcome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nancy. Cat Williams is going to share our reading today and then a beautiful song by Eddie Watkins Jr.
Today's reading is by John Bailey's. It's called A Diary of Private Prayer. O Holy Spirit of God, visit now the soul of mine and linger within until eventide. Inspire all my thoughts, color all my imaginations, suggest all my decisions, dodge in the nooks and crannies of being, and order all my doings. Be with me in my silence and in my speech, in my haste and in my leisure, in company and in solitude, in the freshness of the morning and in the weariness of the evening. Give me grace to recognize all my relations and to embrace thy mysterious companionship. Amen. Here we all are, gathered together in this place. Why are we here? What is our purpose? What is His will? How do we know what's true and what's real? We may not know what life's road will leave, but it doesn't matter as long as we believe that God is the answer. God is the answer. God is the answer to whatever the question may be. What's going on in this world today? Where do we fit? What can we do to make a difference? What can we say? Where do we go? This way or that way? If we all prayed and truly believed and loved one another and let the world see that God is the answer. God is the answer. God is the answer to whatever the question may be. Oh, we may not know what life's road will lead, but it doesn't matter as long as we believe that God is the answer. God is the answer. God is the answer to whatever the question may be.
Cat Williams and our Unity Band. Yeah. They're going to be back in a little bit. Cat and our Unity Band, that was beautiful. And Eddie Watkins Jr., who wrote that song, that was absolutely beautiful. I want to welcome again each and every one of you today. That song sets up perfectly where we are in a series. We're in the 6th week of a 7-week fall series where we have been exploring, we've been using this book by Barbara Brown Taylor it's titled An Altar in the World. And today is week 6 out of 7 weeks. And the title today, the practice that she calls us into, is the practice of being present to God. There's that word, the G-O-D word, that I know because you tell me. Some of you like and would like to hear more. And I also know that some of you wish we would never say it again. And I know that a lot of you also have your own name for it. I have one friend, G-O-D, is the Grand Operational Design. I have another who they call God Harold because their son said the Lord's Prayer and said, "Our Father, Harold, who art in heaven." So whatever the name is, but I ask you to think about this just a minute as we begin to dive into the practice of being present to God. To you, is God a form, a single deity? To you, is God a presence, the presence that is the foundation and life of every form of being? To you, is God somehow both of these? To you, is God perhaps neither? Do you fall under the category called other? I'm sure if we took a poll, it would be very diverse. And that's the beautiful thing about the style of spiritual enrichment that we enter into. It allows us to all to be where we are, and yet all to strive to be an expression of love and light and goodness, and to be a presence for good in the world, honoring and respecting all life. Unity promotes that there is one power and one presence, and that presence is equally present in all creation. That you will find that presence is all creation, and we're going to dig a little deeper into that. And what it means to practice the present, to be present to God. It made me think when I was reading this chapter of a story that I had heard of a little boy, a new neighbor moved in town, and every afternoon, this little guy would either walk by or go by on a skateboard or a bicycle or playing with a ball. He was always happy. And he'd go down the street a little ways, and about an hour and a half, the neighbor would see him come back, and he was always happy. This little guy was just always happy. So one day, this new neighbor stopped him and said, "Hi, son, I've noticed every day you go down and come back, and every day you are so happy. What do you do down there?" And the little boy said, "Well, I go play with God." And the man said, "Oh, so you mean you've got some grandparents or family or maybe a neighbor that you go play with, a little friend?" He said, "No, I play with God." The man looked at him and he reached back and he pulled out his wallet. He pulled out a crisp $50 bill. He said, "Son, I will give you this $50 bill if you can show me where God is." And the little boy said, "Well, mister, I'll let you keep your 50 if you can show me where God ain't." Thank you very much. Where do you believe God is? Where do you believe God ain't, so to speak? There's an interesting survey that was taken in 2017 by a company, it's a reputable research company called Pew Research. And they ask the question to Americans, people in the United States, do you believe in God or not? She'll get the slide up in just a moment. But the question was, do you believe in God or not? 80% said yes, 19% said no. But now here's the interesting thing. So for the 80% that said yes, they said, "So tell me, do you believe in God as described in the Bible?" 50% of them said yes. 23% of them said, "No, I don't believe in that God, but I believe in some other higher power or spiritual force." Of the 19% that said no, 9% said, I don't believe in the God of the Bible, but I do believe in some higher power or spiritual force. And then 10% of those said, I don't believe in any higher power or spiritual force. So the interesting thing to me is, and the interesting thing in this survey is that middle part, that in 2017, based on this survey, approximately 1/3 of United States adults believe in a higher power of some kind, but not in the God as described in the Bible, or perhaps limited to the Bible. Now, we also know that since 2017, that 33% has been growing faster than any other one. The reason is because of young adults and a category of people called cultural creatives, which, in case you didn't know, all of you fall in that category because you're here. And so when we talk about, the first thing, the reason I share this is because when we talk about the practice of being present to God, is to hear that and to begin to open up and to start to ask yourself some questions about, well, for you, we're going to use 3 questions today when we look at that, as we look at this, and they are, where do I expect to encounter God? Where do I expect to find the divine presence? So where do you expect to encounter that which you call God? The second is how. How do you expect to experience God or divine presence? For you, how do you, day in and day out, expect to experience it? And then the third is to ask ourselves, how is my being here, right here, wherever you are in any moment, how is my being here an opportunity to express God or to express this divine presence? So the first one, where do I expect to encounter God, to find the divine presence? Probably like many of you, I grew up in Eastern North Carolina. I grew up in the Pentecostal church. My family, the majority of my family were Pentecostal. I had one mother that was Methodist, and so I was experienced to a lot of it. But I don't ever remember a time in my life where I wasn't aware of some God. And I was taught a lot about this God through the church and through the Bible. But as a child, I grew up in a rural area. My grandparents were farmers, and plus my parents had a house that had big woods behind it. And it was a time when it was completely safe for us to go outside and play all day long if we wanted to. My mom would call us in when it was time to come in. And so I spent a lot of time outside, and I can remember lying in the grass or being in a freshly plowed field and smelling the earth or smelling the grass, and I would just look up. And as a kid, I had these experiences of, I'd see the clouds in the sky, but I somehow knew I was a part of that. There was a regional little airport where I grew up in Goldsboro, North Carolina, and sometimes at night in the summer, my dad would take his pickup truck and he'd load up some blankets in the back, and we'd go out to that area where the airport was, and it was regional. Airplanes very rarely came in. We'd load up some snacks and blankets and get in the back of the truck and just lie down in the complete dark and hope an airplane came in. But for me, the most magical thing was being there snuggled with my family in the dark and the quiet, seeing the stars and the skies and smelling the nighttime and just sensing this incredible presence that was holding us. We had woods behind our house, and my sister and I made a little fort, and it was not uncommon at all to see a squirrel or a rabbit or a deer and to just sit and watch them, and they would watch us. To pick up a rock and to rub the soft moss, to talk to the trees. We somehow knew they were all alive, and we knew. As a child, I didn't have the language for it, but I absolutely knew I was just connected. I was a part of all that. And then when I went to church and I heard about this God that was judgmental and transactional in nature, that was my experience. When I heard about this, it just didn't quite line up. But I never threw God out with the bathwater, so to speak. I never lost sight of that experience. How many of you can relate somewhat to that? I know that you can. Many of you, most of you, probably all of you can. And so my life has been about the dance of what is God and what was an idea that I had that really doesn't serve me. but as a matter of fact serves to locate God in places that I can't find God. And so to be present to God, to ask the question, where do I expect to encounter God? Where do I expect to find the divine presence? The author of the book, Barbara Brown Taylor, talks about, one of the first places we experience the divine is in prayer. But she begins this chapter, the practice of being present to God, and very candidly admitting herself as a prayer weakling. As a matter of fact, she says, I am a failure at prayer. When people ask me about my prayer life, I feel like a bulimic must feel when people ask about their favorite dish. My mind starts scrambling for ways to hide my problem. I start talking about other things I do, and I hope will make me sound like a godly person. I would rather show someone my checkbook stubs than talk about my prayer life. I'd rather confess that I'm a rotten godmother, that I struggle with my weight, that I fear I'm overly fond of Bombay Sapphire gin martinis, than confess that I am a prayer weakling. To say that I love God, but I do not pray much, is like saying I love life, but I don't breathe much. She has a beautiful way of sharing her conundrum. Now, that conundrum with prayer is largely born out of how do we relate to God? Because if you were taught that God was this single-form deity that you prayed to, and then all of a sudden you're like, no, but God is everywhere, it does leave you. I find many people in unity say, I'm glad I found unity, but now I don't know how in the world to pray. That happens so often. And in case you don't remember anything else I say, remember this. I like to quote the gospel according to Nike when it comes to prayer. Just do it. Just do it. Don't worry. All that is will find you wherever you is, wherever you are. She goes on to talk about an individual, Brother David, who was really inspirational to her because he says prayer is waking up to the presence of God no matter where I am or what I am doing. And so that's how she began, and that's what she calls us into this week, to really begin to examine what is it that we call God? Where do I expect to encounter God, to find this presence? And how am I in relationship with that which I call God? This week I discovered a beautiful new children's book that we'll be sharing with our youth. It's called Finding God in All I See, Finding God in You and Me. And I found this because I heard on an interview, I heard this woman, her name is Mary Ellen Weber. She said she never set out to write a book. What happened in 2020, like so many others who were home, she lives in Seattle and her daughter and her grandparent kids live in California. When we were sequestered at home and parents were having to all of a sudden become teachers and everything, her daughter said, Mom, can you help? Can you help with your granddaughter's homework online? And she said, I was so excited to be asked because I was used to Zoom and I could do that. So she began to work with her 6-year-old daughter, and her 6-year-old daughter was going to a Catholic school, and so she began to work with her online every day, Monday through Friday, engaging in that curriculum. And she said there wasn't anything about it that she didn't necessarily like, but it became very obvious to her that so much was missing. And she started having this real hunger for her granddaughter Tegan. She said, I want her to find God in all she sees. I want her to find God in herself. And so she was prayerfully considering how to do that, and not too far from her house, she said there was a labyrinth. And it was a place that she could go and she could walk the labyrinth. And beside the labyrinth happened to be a private school that were still having children. And so one day she went over to walk this labyrinth quietly by herself. And she said she was walking the labyrinth at a church near my home. The labyrinth is next door to a preschool. As I was walking, I had my eyes almost closed, allowing it to guide me, walking slowly. And I heard the children come to their play area. The fence was very close. And suddenly there was a little voice by the fence that said, Are your eyes closed? And she paused and said, Well, kind of. And he said, How come? And she said, Because I'm praying. And he smiled and said, God is not in there. And she stopped and said, "Oh, yes, God is everywhere." And he said, "Even in me?" And she said, "Especially in you." That is what inspired her to write that book, which was just released. Isn't that a powerful story? A beautiful story. So when you ask yourself your question, where do I expect to counter God? And would you be willing this week to engage that a little bit? Where do I literally expect to encounter the divine presence? When I was finishing up my first ministry in Lawrence, Kansas, and I was very guided to go to Maui, Hawaii, it was a tough job, but somebody had to do it. And I was so blessed to go to Maui for a period of time and be the minister at the Unity Church there. And so in my preparations for doing that, I was getting rid of everything and only shipping or taking the essentials. And I was selling everything, including my car. And so I sold my Subaru Forester that had served me well in Kansas City. And I was still in Kansas, and I had like about 10 days left. So I went to get a rental car, and they had this van, and they said, "Hey, would you like to use this?" And I thought, this would serve me great, so I got this van. Well, I wanted to take a 3-day silent retreat before I took off and moved to Maui. So I headed to a place called the Light Center. It's in a rural area in Kansas. I was going to go by myself, except I took my 2 little dogs with me. And I was driving, and as I arrived, it was almost getting dark. And so I picked up my cell phone. I needed to call home and say I got here safely, blah, blah, blah. But I looked, and I had no cell service. I thought, ugh. But I remembered seeing cell service not too far back. Well, it was a long dirt road that had taken me in, so I just grabbed my 2 little dogs, put them in the van, and said, I'm just going to go back far enough till I have cell service. So I started driving, and I wound up about a mile down this dirt road. And then I finally saw some bars come up, so I pulled over pretty far, made the call, and said, I don't have cellular service there, but I'm there. I'm heading back over right now. Hopped in that van and started to leave, and back wheels started spinning. I was used to driving a little Subaru Forester. She could get up and go out of anything. I had managed to take a big van into the mud. Here I was in the mud. Now it's getting dark, and I did not bring leashes. So it's me, it's cold, I got 2 little dogs. I'm like, Lord Jesus, what am I? This is a mess. That is a good time to ask yourself the question, where do I expect to encounter God? I prayed. I got very still. And I prayed that prayer that is known as HELP, help. God, I need guidance. I need guidance. I need to know what to do, and I just sat for a minute. And I heard very clearly, look down, and I looked down, and in the floorboard on each side was a piece of cardboard in place of a mat. And I clearly heard, put one behind each tire. And I literally laughed. I'm like, I don't know whose voice that is, but that's a bad idea. But I clearly heard that, and I thought, okay. I got those 2 squares of cardboard, went out in the mud and put them behind each tire. Got back in that driver's seat and prayed again. Pressed that gas pedal, and it moved out of there like nothing. I was literally surprised that worked, honestly. And I jumped out because I wanted to pick up the cardboard and not litter. It was buried in mud. I could not see any remnant of any piece of cardboard. To this day, I marvel at that story. But what I learned about that, and what I learned in those 3 days in the silence that followed, is what the most important thing for me in my life and where I was headed was I needed to learn to encounter God wherever I was. I needed to learn to encounter God through the voice within. I needed to learn to encounter God within me and around me. And so I ask you, where do you expect to encounter God, encounter the divine presence? The second one is, how do I expect to experience God? They're very similar. How do I expect to experience God, experience the divine presence? There's a man that I know, his name is Tom Baker. Tom was a former Roman Catholic priest. He has since stepped out of the priesthood. He's now still a minister, but he practices as a psychotherapist. And he told a story of in the early days when he had become a priest, and there was just something within him that was calling him, that was his path, that was something calling him into something that was somehow more expansive than he was experiencing at the time. He said it was February and it was around Valentine's Day, and he just had noticed that he was feeling kind of lonely and disconnected. And he said, I'll never forget, I was sitting and I literally said out loud, God, I feel lonely. He said, God, I wish that you could give me a kiss. And he said he had no sooner said that a cricket jumped up on his pant leg, jumped on up, and landed on his cheek. And his feeling was like, he said, something washed all over me. And up until that point in time, I had never thought about looking for the presence of God in a cricket. He said for a long time, I didn't even tell anybody that story because there were so many elements I didn't really want to share. But he said finally the Sunday came in his Catholic service when he was delivering a homily, and he said he felt just really clear to share it. So he told that story to those that had gathered for the Mass and the homily. And he said after he told that story, his mind went completely blank. He said the congregation, they didn't respond much, but it was kind of like, oh, and it was sort of quiet. And he didn't have anything to say. And he said, I kid you not, the crickets started chirping. He said they started chirping so loud, people started gasping, they started laughing, they stood up and they started looking. One man even got angry and said, how are you doing that? I love Reverend Tom Baker's true story because it calls us to consider, how do I expect to experience God? If you ask yourself that, how do you expect day in and day out to encounter God, the divine presence? How do you think it's possible for you to experience it? And then the third that we ask ourselves is, how is my being here and opening to express divine presence? One of the greatest ways to get in touch with this presence is to say, what's mine to do? How am I being called? What am I to do right here? How am I going to express it? Because the way that you really begin to relate to that which we call divine, the way to peace is the way of peace. The way to love is to be loving, to give and receive love. The way to these qualities that transcend any condition, the ways to these states of being are to become that way and state of being, that we are the way. Vicki Pruitt, one of our new members who just joined from Tennessee, came to the church for the first time a few weeks ago when we had our homecoming retreat, and it was so good to see her and enjoy. And if any of you that were here for the Sunday, when we ended our homecoming retreat, we had a beautiful meal provided by Deb Vatier. It was just absolutely a gorgeous meal. Truly. But so many volunteers chipped up. We did so many things. And Ellen and Michael Winter, where are you? I know they're here. Ellen and Michael used to live next door. They've since sold that property and moved a little further out. But when COVID first happened, Ellen started creating some really fun videos using their donkeys. Their donkeys sort of became our mascot of encouragement through COVID. We would show videos, the donkeys wearing hats. Ellen was so kind to do that. So we said, Ellen, for homecoming retreat, can you bring the donkeys? And so she literally bought a trailer, worked on it. And I didn't even know till that day. And when we got here and I saw those donkeys, I was literally like moved to tears. So if you were here, you saw the two donkeys. Now, if you know anything about a donkey, they're also called a jack-you-know-what for a reason. Because they do not do what they do not want to do. Amen? So when it came time for them to go, Ellen and Michael walked the donkeys down to that trailer. And I didn't even know about it till I got ready to leave. Almost everybody was gone. And those donkeys, there were many skilled people with all kinds of things trying to get those donkeys in the trailer. Finally, Michael said, "Can we tie them up and leave them here?" And I'm like, I don't think that's a good idea, Michael. But And so I thought, okay, I can help. And so I get into the trailer and tried to be really holy and help, and nothing happened. I got out of the trailer, said, God bless you, went home. There's still a few left, but all the while, Vicki Pruitt was getting ready to leave. Vicki's heart starts pounding because something had guided her a while back to take a class on animal communication. But there's something in her that just didn't want to be out there, had some reservations. And she said, I started to leave and I saw those poor donkeys and I saw their poor owners in that conundrum, and I thought, oh God. So she went to her car and had an earnest prayer. Now, in my experience, sometimes the people that are the most hesitant, the most shy, that feel the most inept are by far the most qualified, because the ego is not in the way. There's a part of them that is mystified at the power that moves through them. Vicki went into her car and, legs shaking, said, am I supposed to do anything? If I am, let those donkeys talk to me. And all of a sudden, communication started. And she said she very nervously went and approached them. And she said, I thought Ellen may say, what? But when she told Ellen, when she said to her, let me read her exact words. She said, after the retreat was over, I realized that they were having trouble getting the donkeys. David, would you come give me that song? Getting the donkeys in the trailer. The more I watched, the more stress I felt for them. I felt compelled to help. I'd taken an animal communication classes a few years ago and had some success, but I often doubt what I get. I have a lot of fear around it. Normally, I'd be afraid to put myself out there, especially with people I had literally just met. But I felt so safe and welcomed and cared for at the retreat that I felt like I wanted to give back to the community, and maybe I could at least try to help the donkeys. She prayed, received the guidance. She said, I took a few minutes to tell the donkeys, because the donkeys were afraid of the trailer, how it rattled and the noise it made. I told the donkeys that I told Ellen, and she understood, and that she promised she would make it better for them in the future. And she said, as soon as we said that, the first donkey stepped in. And she said, I said, hallelujah. And then the second one stepped in, and she said, I thank them so much for talking with me and being brave and getting in there one more time. I told them that they are beautiful, and I love them. Isn't that beautiful? That's a beautiful story, Vicki. Beautiful story for everyone. It's a beautiful thing when you encounter God, the divine presence, when you expect it, when you call on it, and when you know that you're here to express it. I want to take us into a time of meditative prayer with a song that says, surely the presence of the Lord. And here the word Lord is love or whatever speaks to you, but surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I'm going to invite you to close your eyes. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I can feel God's mighty power, love and grace. There's a holy hush around us, and I see glory on each face. Surely the presence God is in this place. For surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I can feel love's power and grace. And I can feel a brush of angel wings. I see a glory on each face. I know surely there is a presence, that love is in this place. I invite you to just turn your awareness more deeply within. Today we give ourselves, this week we give ourselves the invitation, the encouragement to spend some time noticing. How do I feel about communicating, conversing, dialoguing with the divine, the Holy Spirit, my higher self, the God of my being. What would it look like for me to enter into a practice, a practical way, a regular way, a practice of beginning to notice the divine presence? A Course in Miracles said that all things are either an expression of love or a cry for love. We could say that all things are either an expression of the God presence or a cry for it. What would it be like if, when I looked around and when I asked myself, where am I expecting to encounter and experience that which I call God? If it were as simple as in myself as noticing, where am I feeling like I have my God nature, the God consciousness to express, and where is there part of me that's just crying to be in communion with it? And how is my being right here and opening to express this divine presence? Wherever you are, there is a power that permeates all creation. That power is beyond and through all creation, so much more than the mind can comprehend. And yet that power is experienced as presence. Jesus called it Abba, the beloved thou, the other, close enough to commune with us. And the divine presence is also part of our very being, our nature. Jesus also taught that in saying, I and the Father, I and the Creator are one. And all that he taught was to say, and so are you. We open to an experience this week, to the joy that flows through that. For surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I can feel God's mighty power, love and grace. And I can feel the brush of angel wings. I see glory on each face. For surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I'm going to invite you to open your eyes if you've not yet done so, to wiggle your fingers and toes, and to stand up. To use this opportunity just to acknowledge presence in one another, and feel free to sing along if you're familiar with this song, Surely the Presence. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I can feel God's mighty power and God's grace. I can feel the brush of angel wings. I see glory on each face. For surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. Yes, surely, last line, the presence. Would you put your hands on your heart? Yes, now surely the presence right here of the Lord is in this place. Yeah. Namaste. Surely that presence is in this place and is in that place, and we're happy you are in this place. Thank you so much. You may be seated. How many of you have had something poked or inspired today that maybe you're willing to engage a little bit in a different way? I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for engaging that. I'm going to invite one of our prayer chaplains and one of our board members, They're here to remind us that we are a community of prayer. That not only do our prayer chaplains pray every week over our prayer requests, they're available. Come on, Cheryl and Diane, if you want to come on up front. They're available to pray with you after service on any Sunday. They're holding your prayer requests during the week. So we absolutely are a community that truly does pray together. The blue boxes remind us of our capacity to give. The blue boxes remind us of the greater box and the greater community, this mosaic of spiritual consciousness that we create together, and how we support that in a practical way. And so your gifts of tithe and blessing and offering are appreciated. And so to these we say, divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, all that I receive, and all that I am. I'm in perfect balance and flow with the universal tides of giving and receiving. Thanks to each of you. Kat's going to share one more song with us, and then we will pause for a 15-minute break. So we'll close with a prayer together after this song. I think you may know this one. It's titled, "Oh, Happy Day." I love for Kat to sing that song because when she was a little girl attending Catholic school trying to sing in the choir, they threw her out and said, "You got too much happy in you." We love the happy in you, Kat. Oh, happy day.
Day.
Oh, happy day.
Oh, happy day.
Oh, happy day.
When spirit walks.
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 Wash my fears away.
Oh, happy day.
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 When spirit walks.
When spirit walks.
When spirit walks.
When spirit walks.
When spirit walks. Wash my fears away.
Oh, happy day.
Oh, happy day. He taught me how to walk, talk and pray right now. Good God, yeah, pray. And in rejoice and in rejoice. Yeah, every day. Lord, every day. Oh, happy day.
Oh, happy day.
Oh, happy day.
Oh, happy day.
When spirit walks.
When spirit walks.
When spirit walks.
Spirit walks.
Spirit walks. Wash my fears away.
Oh, happy
Oh, happy day.
Oh, happy day. She taught me how.
He taught me how
to love.
to talk and pray. Lord, I
happy day.
Woo! I think it's about time we form a Metacostal gospel choir. It's getting close to that time, I do believe. We want to close with this prayer by James Dillett Freeman together that says, "The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well." All right. If you'll turn around, there's a clock right up on top above the screen. It says 12:36. It's obviously not yet been set back because, thank God, it's only 11:36. It may not even be exactly right, but anyway, it's 12. By this clock at 12:36, at 12:50, we will be back in here to begin our meeting. So there's some fruit, some breakfast bars. Please restore your comfort. If you do need to leave, we understand, but we hope you will stay, hear a little bit about the possibility of us going solar. Have a wonderful week and a oh happy day. Would you sing us out? We'll be back at 12:50 by that clock.
Away.